I just want to ask you this. What's your plan for finding elk? Well, for most of it's pretty basic. Hunt the bugles and find the bulls, right? Plan numero uno. Don't we all love when the bulls are cranking and letting us know right where they are? But what if you're not hearing bugles? What do you do then? Where do you start? How do you start? For that matter, how is it where people know to look for elk in the first place? On today's show, we're starting a series called Finding Elk From Day One of the Hunt. The series will include finding and locating strategies, steps to take, where to look, and how to utilize your hunting buddies as resources. Things that you can remember, use, and no matter what elk you're looking for or where you're hunting. We're about to share our experiences and what we have learned as we answer questions and give our views on finding elk during a hunt. These are ElkBros keys to the game. That discussion along with our ElkBros shoutouts. So my friends, pull up a chair, adjust your volumes just right, and welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunting.
Welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunting, brought to you by ElkBros.com, with your host Gilbert Ornelas and elk hunting coach Joe Gilly. You want to hunt elk? They live to hunt elk. Their goal is to share with you what they have learned grinding it out for over 35 seasons, doing what they love. So come on into camp and set a spell. Welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunters.
Hello there, everyone. If it's your first time with us, glad to have you. Hope you enjoy our show. And as always, for those blue collar hunters following our show and grinding it out with us every week, welcome back to Elk Camp. I'm Gilbert Ornelas, the host of your show, coming to you from Spring, Texas, and from Katy, Texas. That's right, Luis Gonzalez, a member of the Venezuelan Mafia.
No. You can quit that member crap now. Banano's not here, and he won't even know that was mentioned because he doesn't listen to the podcast anyway.
And straight up, our elk hunting coaches are in the house from Cimarron, New Mexico. Leroy the Ninja Chavez and WWJGD. What would Joe Gillia do? They are all in the house. What's happening, fellas?
What's up, brothers?
I had somebody that sent me an email today, said, how did Chav become a ninja?
It took a long time.
Tell you what, man.
Very
Actually,
carefully.
I think he was born a ninja, man.
I'll wear a headband next week.
Yeah, man.
Long in the
That'd be way too
He's got the David Carradine glasses on, man. He just needs the bandana.
He's just wearing the glasses to hide the tears, man. So New Mexico draw came out today, and it was not good to the bros. For all those people that think that we've had it easy all these years, it was not kind to us this year, man.
Unbelievable. Straight punch in the gut.
I'm wearing black. 1 out of the 6, we're looking to see what can happen for a couple of fellows, possibly with some other types of things to happen, but was not good, man.
Did draw a deer tag.
Yeah, we got some deer tags. Yeah, we got some deer tags.
Yeah.
So that'll be happening out of there.
I got one.
Yeah. No, it's a pretty sad day for the ElkBros, man.
Oh, well, Joe.
Oh, cry me a river. My gosh, what's up with you guys?
Look what is in the house. Oh, my gosh. The legend himself, R.C. Knox, is in the house, people. Look at the guy sitting there wearing my hat. Oh, my gosh.
Hey, Mr. Knox, pleasure to meet you, sir. I've heard terrible things about you.
Oh, yeah. And they're all true.
And they're all true. Especially if Big O told him, I promise you.
Quite an honor, sir.
Oh,
quite
my gosh, Joe. You didn't tell me he's going to have, Joe does this to me all the time, RC. He doesn't tell me when he's going to have the celebrities on because I get all giddy and everything. He knows I'll act a fool and get off unleashed and everything. So good to see you, brother. How you doing, man?
I'm good.
That's really so cool, good. Buddy.
Look good.
Fantastic.
You guys.
We're doing fantastic, brother. Just, another day, another dollar out here in the oil field.
Right.
Yeah, no, I told you the other day, man, I went and talked to RC, and he was like, he got so excited about ElkBros, and he's like, man, what do I got to do?
It's complete now.
Yeah, he's like, dude, I want to make sure I get involved with you guys. And I thought, man, we got to get him jump on with us this time. And because I thought really tonight and some of the stuff we're talking about is going to have a lot of value, especially for somebody for RC. And, you know, for those people, you've heard us talk about Carl, and you've heard a lot about RC. In fact, I think I told you, man, you got a lot to live up to the way.
Look, man, I've gotten to hunt with some unbelievable guys in my day, but I'm telling you, I cherished every moment I got to hunt with Carl Gamage and RC Knox, because these guys were legends, man, and they still are. I mean, RC's one of the best elk hunters I've ever hunted with, not to mention one of the best men I've ever been around. So cool to have you on with us, brother. And like I've told people this, there would be no ElkBros without Carl Gamage and RC Knox. So, I mean, this has come full circle, RC. Welcome.
And it's perfect that Manano's not here, because you didn't need to meet Manano.
Right. There you go.
Y'all Venezuelan brothers, man. You love these guys. They're
yeah.
That's for sure.
I've been watching all the podcasts and all this stuff, and it's just like, wow, these guys, they're awesome.
They're fantastic.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Likewise.
Looking good, RC. Looking good, RC.
Oh, so are you, bud. My gosh, you scared the heck out of us.
Well, yeah, it's been a crazy year.
Yeah.
It has been. Having him back up on the mountain with us there at the end of elk season was, for end of our hunt, was just a coup de grace for us. I mean, it was so rough on us, RC, with all the snow and just the different curveballs that were thrown at us.
I love that, man.
We made it happen though, man, and Chav pushed us the whole time, him and Carl. Every time I'm up in the woods, I find a horseshoe, and you know who that reminds me of. So,
yeah,
pretty cool, man.
Beto didn't really suffer through the cold too much, because he had this beautiful pink blanket with him that protected him at all times.
Damn,
as you guys
Skippy,
could probably
did.
see in the videos. So
I think I seen Gilbert's pretty little checkered pink. And
That's the one.
yeah.
My grandma made me that. I'll slap you in the mouth. You talk about my blanket now.
Oh, yeah. And if it came down to a place to hunt, you'd slap your grandma, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I done told Joe that. He told me he found him a place to hunt. Somebody like his mama. I'm like, well, I slapped my mama in the mouth for a place to hunt. Let's go.
Yeah, I know better, man. You just got done dealing with a birthday party not too long ago, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome, man. No, I thought this would be a great surprise, man. And like I said the other day, it's so cool to see RC so excited about the things that were going on with the crew. And I wanted him to come in and join us for an evening and be part of this and be part of what we do, and want to look at getting him involved with us in the future here. And
I couldn't be happier, man. I mean, you're talking about a guy who's guided the who's of elk hunting in the world, celebrities and royalty. And I mean, it's just so cool to have him sitting next to you, Joe. I'd be giddy as all get out, man. I mean,
that is so awesome.
Yeah.
No.
He didn't guide Jeff Foxworthy, bro.
Huh? I didn't say Jeff Foxworthy.
People and the royalty, man. That's the only royalty and famous people.
Oh no, he's talking potentially me. If he's talking royalty.
Oh no, man. I mean, there's some other. I didn't mention any names because I was trying to keep his stuff sacred. Joe, here you start running off at the mouth again.
Well, speaking of, I thought it was kind of cool because Chab and I have had RC and Carl and I have been hunting buddies, and I just want to throw this out there that our hunting buddy site is up. We have people already joining up and throwing profiles on there. I see people from New York, East Coast, West Coast, North, South, man. I see hunters from all over joining up on that. It's really cool to see that, and I'm anxious to see more people get in there and start finding.
Did you delete my profile, Joe?
Well, your profile got deleted, bro.
What do you mean? Just because it was called a mafia leader? What the heck, man?
He deleted mine too, man. I was looking for a Buddette.
I mean, really, dude, this is how I get treated. I mean, it's just that. So this is like a dictatorship. I feel like I'm back in Venezuela now.
I sent Joe the picture of them, the ones that he told me I needed to hunt with and everything. I hope he showed RC that.
No, man. We edited those photos out quick, bro.
Man, man. I can't ever have no fun.
In fact, we had a whole bunch of our listeners out there, guys that jumped at the chance to help out. They went and tested it for us for a whole day before we went live. They put their profiles on. RC jumped on there, right?
Yeah.
And they had people that added profiles, and they tested the site out to find the little kink, what was going on. We did find that we had an issue with Yahoo Mail, where Yahoo is rejecting our emails from that. So we know, and at first Google was throwing it into spam. We got that fixed, so that's no longer happens. So right now, Gmail is the best email to deal with that account right there, and we're trying to get over the hump with the Yahoo thing. Luckily, there's and I'm sorry if you guys have Yahoo Mail, but there's fewer people with Yahoo than there is with Gmail, and I'm not sure why that is, but there is.
Just create an account in Gmail and get on board.
Yeah, that's all.
It's easy to do.
Gmail, man, and that way you'll have your hunting Gmail account is what.
That's right.
But and it's kind of neat. They helped us do that. They found some kinks. We fixed some of the stuff that's going on in there, and so what I did was, because everybody did that, I just told everybody I'm going to delete all. I'm going to make sure that everything's cleaned out before we go live. And so, yes, I had to dump out the mafia, profile out of there, bro.
I'm telling you, man, it's just like, it's just.
We got to go create a new one.
I'm going to have to spam it now, called the Mafia Leader 1, the Mafia Leader 2. That way there's like 100 mafia leaders, and then Manano can get the 110 or something like that.
I didn't want you to see you didn't have any likes. I so,
oh, Lord.
You know how that is, man.
Rough crowd, man. Rough crowd.
Very proud. But guys, y'all know what time it is. It's time. If you're new to the show, these are just shout outs to a few cities with the most listeners topping our charts this week.
And today's #1 listening city is home to Granite Peak Ski Area. Y'all, this is the highest location, the highest ski area in Wisconsin, and one of the oldest ski slopes in North America. It opened back in 1937. And back then, I think they had just started laminated wood skis at that time, man. So this is all pre-fiberglass, for all their snowboard and everything like that. 1937 is actually, that time in 1936 was when I think the first chairlifts were happening, which created a division between cross-country skiing and downhill skiing. That's when
Joe, you still got your skis from then, don't you?
Man, you read my mind, Beto. I was going to throw a bad joke like that, too. And I was like, man, I'm just waiting for the opportunity. And dang, you're just on point today.
I was finding a place to go ski. I just found it. But anyway, and it is a center of cultivation in ginseng and known for its red granite, and home to the Badger State Games and the beer and look. This is a festival after my own heart right here.
No doubt.
The Beer and Bacon Festival.
Heck yeah.
Right? We could do that. It also has one of the oldest, and then they went from the Beer and Bacon Festival to one of the oldest curling clubs in the U.S. in Wausau, Wisconsin.
All right, man. So here comes a coaching moment, bro.
Uh-oh.
What is curling club?
Oh, come on, man.
Yeah.
You don't know, it's in the Olympics.
Yeah.
Curling's in the Olympics.
Guys that are with the ice that are rubbing the ice.
Oh, okay. I see.
Curling.
I know what you're talking. I just didn't know it was called curling.
They couldn't do it down there in Venezuela. It'd melt. Yeah, you'd have to do water bowling.
There's no way to keep that ice there for long, man.
Exactly.
The only curling they do down there is with 16 ounces. That's about it.
Yeah, buddy, 16, 20-ounce curls.
That's a Texas curl.
That's right.
Yeah.
No, Wausau, Wisconsin. Yeehaw, buddy, man. Hey, love to have you guys, and we're just having fun here. I hope you guys. We love the fact that you guys are our top listener. It's awesome, you know.
Man, Joe, we have a whole bunch of those cheeseheads showing up every week, man.
Every week.
I mean,
man.
seriously, the Wisconsin people are showing out every week, Joe.
And you go into the hills. You go in the hills of the Western elk season, start looking at license plates.
Yeah,
right?
Illinois, Wisconsin.
Yes, sir.
Lots of them.
There we go.
For sure. Well, our next top listening city is located 11 miles from central Seattle and once produced the B-29 Super Fortress during World War II. And it is its final assembly point for the Boeing 737 family of commercial airplanes. If you visit, you have to go to one of the coolest public libraries. This city's public library was built on concrete and wood truss joints, creating a stunning 80-foot central span directly over the Cedar River in an active salmon habitat in none other than Renton, Washington.
Renton, Washington. Washington in the house again. But
Man,
how
West Coast showing out, Joe.
how cool. You ought to see this library. You can go in this library, sit down to read, and you are looking over the river, salmon in the river.
Wow.
Right? I mean, where were these libraries when I was a kid? I might have read a book or two.
I'd have been fishing for salmon.
I'd rather be fishing. Yeah, I was going to say, I'd rather be fishing than reading a book.
They've been distracted.
Yeah. Up next, Jeff.
Okay, this city is a suburb of Atlanta. This city's name is an amalgamation of two early settlers, N.M. Reed and Annie Alford. The main area attraction include Stone Mountain Park, which features laser shows, 4D theaters, scenic railroad, and the Summit Skyride. The Skyride takes you to the summit where you can view 9-story sized carvings of historic Confederate icons, and that's in Redden, Georgia.
Redden, Georgia.
Redden, Georgia.
Reed
South
and
showing up.
Annie. Reed Redden.
Is that Redden? Anybody get that?
Redden, Georgia.
Redden? I would say it. That's how I'd say it from the South. I'd just say Redden. That's all.
Exactly.
Redden or Redan, so.
I'm just trying to figure, I wasn't sure if that word meant a bad thing, amalgamation. I mean, if somebody said that amalgamation,
It's
Combination.
matter of fact, it's using dentistry it's the paste that they put in the teeth to seal the cavities.
oh, okay. No, well, I can see the RE from Reed and the AN from Andy.
The first two letters of each name.
I'd tell you, somebody come tell me I was an amalgamation, I'd have been offended.
You look like an amalgamation, though.
Hey, I'm a blending of my mother and my father.
Yeah, you do look like an amalgamation, and let's not talk about Manano. Let's not go there.
Yeah.
Well, hey, RC, welcome, man. I mean,
Thank you.
know,
Thank you.
Yeah.
you're going to get it full force with all of this, man.
It's great.
All right, so this city is part of the Kansas City Metro and lies on the northern edge of the Osage Plains near the Kansas River. It was formerly the world headquarters of Sprint before the company merged with T-Mobile in 2020. It was awarded Best City to Raise a Family and one of the most popular cities for millennials in 2018. None other than Overland Park, Kansas.
Kansas.
Been there many times. I lived there for almost 2 years when I was a kid. From the time I was 7 years old to the time I was 10. Yeah, my dad at the time was working as a traveling sign salesman, and he got moved to Overland Park, Kansas, and we lived right there. Man, it snowed a lot there. I remember we had all kinds of orchard trees in our yard too. We had cherry trees and pear trees and all kinds of stuff. I think I was in the 4th grade, third and 4th grade when we were there. So, yep, Overland Park, Kansas, a pretty town.
That's awesome, man.
Right outside of Kansas City.
Oh, way cool.
Yep.
Sprint and T-Mobile went together, huh?
Did, yep, sure did. That is, like I said, that is a a neat town, man. It's right on the outskirts of Kansas City. You can get into Kansas like Conroe is to Houston, man. I mean, it's just outside the suburbs, right? So, yeah, Kansas in the house. We'll close it out with this next city right here, Joe, located in the southern Arizona area near New Mexico's border, and was settled by Mormon settlers in 1879, and was originally named Smithville after Joseph Smith, the founder of the Mormon Church. This area is one of the oldest continuously inhabited areas in the U.S. and named for the Pima, the North American Indians that lived along the Gila and Salt Rivers of Arizona, in none other than Pima, Arizona.
Pima, Arizona.
Yes, sir.
You know anything about Pima? I don't either. Never been down that far down there. Anybody been to Pima?
No, sir.
I've never been to Pima, Arizona.
Yeah, well,
I've been around the Gila, but I've never been to Pima.
Sounds like a cool city, though. Like the name, Pima.
Yeah, I sure like it. Well, and the Pima Native Americans, man, their descendants were in the area for thousands of years. So, a lot of history with those people. All right, y'all. Let's move on, man. Let's get into some other tonight's topic. This is where everybody came to hear, and our topic is finding elk from day one of the hunt. And you know, Gilbert, I think we tell people this all the time as coaches. What's a person without a plan, man?
Yeah, I mean, you got to wish.
Yeah. That's
Manano.
Yeah.
Without setting goals and then having a plan, then you just got to wish. You know, I mean, for sure, it's definitely something that you gotta make a plan, right, wrong, or indifferent. You got to make a plan and then try and execute off of that, right?
We always say a person without a plan is a person lost, right? So. Yeah. Absolutely. So what we want our listeners to know is that we're going to give you our exact processes, our steps, what we use to locate or find or have an encounter with elk on a hunt during this series. But y'all, before we get there, we're going to make sure that you understand exactly why we do what we do. You know, that whole give a person a fish or teach a person to fish thing? Yeah. Right. So we're not here just to, it's not that we want to tell you steps that you don't understand. We want you to understand the reasons behind it, because that's going to be critical to everybody out there being able to, in their situation, no matter how dynamic, to be able to look at it and to process it and to make decisions that are going to help them to find elk. Right. Yeah. So, look, there's two ways that you can have an elk encounter. And this is, I really want you to hear this. Look, you can wait until it happens because of the elk's behaviors, or you can make it happen because of the elk's behaviors. Mm-hmm. You follow me on that, right? 100%. Yeah. And, you know, for consistent, successful elk hunting, for you guys to be consistently successful, because we've said, and everybody said any hog can find an acorn, right?
Sure, blind ones. Yep.
You can do everything wrong and end up finding an elk and kill an elk. But to be consistently successful, you have to know how to increase your odds. And you increase your odds by increasing opportunities. Increased opportunities is what creates encounters, right? Yeah. So the big question is what?
Well, how do you increase the opportunities? How do you increase your consistency?
Yeah, where do you start?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want you guys to actually remember that question. And I want you to keep asking that throughout. Anytime we get to a point where it's like, well, so how do you do that? Or better yet, where do you start? We got to remember that's exactly what everybody listening to us tonight, and you guys that are in camp with us, because that's, hey, we're all circled up. Our season camp tonight, man. So, you know, when there's something that does not make sense like that, we have to remember to ask that question for our viewers out there. All right. And you know, somebody pumped you up the other night, Luis, and I think I got something on Chav that said, you know, you guys always do such a great job of redirecting and asking those questions that they're wanting to hear. So you've got to be that voice out there when we get going too fast, all right? And all of us are going to jump on. So I want you to remember that question. But before we just go into where do we start? What I want to do is I want to do something else to get this whole thing started. And the reason I want to do it this way is because even though a lot of you guys out there, you don't hunt elk, I think a lot of our listeners fish, right? If you don't fish, go get you a fishing license, take your kid fishing. At least, come on.
I would if Beto would invite me. I don't.
So,
I'm horrible with that.
I'm going to take that 90-10 thing to fishing because like catching a big bass. Look, when it comes to catching a big bass, man, I'm in that 90% group. Because I'm that dude that Gilbert, whenever Gilbert goes out in the boat, he sees them people lined up on the shore, you know. So I've always fished the way I think a lot of people elk hunt, man. Yeah. Honest to God, you know, because as a kid, I knew you get a worm, you put a worm on a hook, because that's what everybody else did. You got a worm, put it on a hook, put a little weight underneath the bobber, go to the side, cast it out in the lake, cast it out in the creek, cast it out in the river, and you wait.
Right.
And you wait until a fish comes by, decides to bite that thing. And I mean, you can go through breakfast, you can go through lunch.
Catch a nap.
All that. You get bored, so you lose focus. You start throwing rocks in the creek, you know, all of that stuff. So I'm in that 90% group that never catch a big bass. And I get Gilbert and his son sending photographs. These guys are sending photographs. And I think they hold it closer to the camera.
Yeah, they do. That's part of it, man. That's part. Yeah. Look how big this phone is, man.
Yeah, it's like, but I'm like, holy Toledo, I mean, they're killing it with the bass, right? And so I really think this really corresponds to a lot of things. So Gilbert, you do a lot of professional fishing.
Well,
right?
I did, yeah. And now it's just passing all that knowledge on to my son and teaching him and stuff like that.
And
so
I think he's already gone past Pops, right? But
he's gonna for sure. You know, fishing's a lot like elk hunting. And this is a perfect analogy for me to segue into it, Joe, because I'm that guy who's going to get out in a boat and go find fish, right?
Yep.
First, the thing that we got to understand is what the fish are doing, right? What time of year.
I'm sorry, bro. Can I get you to hold that shot? Because I'm gonna lead you through this a little bit. I'm gonna put you on the stand, and I'm gonna be the prosecutor. You ready for this,
yes.
right? Okay.
Yes, counselor.
You guys, I'm going to do Manana's part right here. I'm going to be the counselor, right? Okay. Esto.
Yeah.
Give me some language, Beto.
Joe, you're going to have to get the woohoo button ready.
Oh, my goodness. All right. So when you go to fish a new lake, just like, look, I'm sure you go to lakes you've never been to.
Did
before,
it the
right?
past month.
It's huge, right?
Yep.
So when you go to that lake, do you just go throw a line in?
No, sir.
I mean, anywhere, right? I mean, anybody can put a worm on a hook, pull up a chair, and throw the bobber in and wait, right?
Anybody can do that. Yes, sir.
Is that what you do?
No.
All right.
No, sir.
What do you do, bro?
So first, before we ever left the house, we did a whole bunch of e-scouting. You know.
Are you serious?
You
actually e-scout a lake before you go?
Absolutely, man. Gotta look for the creek channels. This time of year that we're in, okay, it's the spring, and the bass are all looking to spawn. So they're going to go to they're coming out of the backs of the creeks onto the spawning flats to spawn. All the north-facing banks are going to warm up faster in the mornings. So these pockets that are north-facing are going to get warmer quicker. So that's where you're going to go look, right? Just like if you're elk hunting, you're going to look where feeding water's at, right? Same thing that you're going to.
It seems like time of the year also
100%
has a big factor as well.
We call it pattern fishing, right? So we got to figure out what pattern or what time of the year.
Okay, all right. Now, I asked you one question. You answered.
Gotcha.
Don't be jumping ahead on me there, sir.
I'm trying not to, Joe. I'm trying.
You have to be the judge, man. I think you can't let him go off on me like that. All right. Okay. So, I guess the thing I want to find out though is, bud, Can
East
you
Scout.
go, and even after you did, let's say you didn't even e-scout a lake, right? Can you go to a lake and look at it and have an idea of where fish would be?
For sure. Yes.
So you know what areas look fishy, right?
Yeah.
This looks a little fishy. All right. and
Go to Venezuela, man. Every corner.
That statement's a little fishy, but yeah.
So what I want to ask you is, what are the focus areas and why, bud?
Time of year. Okay.
Right. I mean, focus areas like on the lake. Not
physical, like
north facing pockets.
Uh-huh.
Next to creek channels.
Okay. Anything else? Anything else you're looking for in the water when you're going, or
points?
All right.
Points that come out, right? Grass that's growing up for the fish to get in. Fish like hydrilla and other types of grass. Any type of lily pad stems. Old lily pad stems mean that there's a sandy bottom, and bass like to spawn on sandy bottoms. So if you find old lily pad stems, the bass are going to set up in those areas where they got a sandier bottom. They love grass, and they like that. They need a little bit of shade, but not a lot. They got to have sunlight to make their eggs hatch and everything. Wow. So it's north-facing pockets that warm up faster, creeks that come by with points where they're going to stage first, right? They'll stage out on those little deeper edges of the points and then push into the back of those pockets, and that's where they're going to spawn. And that's in any lake in the country during the spawn. When the water temperature gets from about 58 degrees to 65 degrees, that's what the fish are going to do.
So that's the next question, man. Does the time of year or type of fish matter?
Yes.
I mean, we're talking bass right now, but is that the same for?
Same for crappie. Crappie are going to do the same thing. They're going to kind of spawn a lot at the same time. Now, brims further later on in the year, you got to get more water temperature for the brim to move up on the bank.
Okay, so let's stick with the bass time of year. So you said springtime. What about summer? What about fall? What about cold?
Yes, so as soon as the bass are done spawning and hatching their fry, they'll pull off the banks, and the water's temperature is going to start getting higher, so they got to get lower in the water column to keep oxygen. The biggest thing is water temperature and then bait. They're going to follow the bait. They are slaves to their bellies, just like elk are, okay? And they are going to follow the bait. They're going to follow shad and brim. You're going to always have bass are going to live shallow. They're always going to have some shallow fish, but they are a school type fish. So if you look offshore, you will find, if you find big schools of shad, you will find big schools of bass on them too. And our electronics have gotten so much better that it's easier to find those big schools of fish. But I am a power fisherman, just like Joe is a power elk hunter. I'm a power fisherman. So I like to fish for shallow fish the rest of the summer. It doesn't matter. I'm going to fish for those big fish that like to feed on brim and stay in the lily pad stems and blah, blah, blah. But yes, that.
And how many people you see out there just throwing a line in the lake and sitting and waiting?
A lot. I mean, they've lined the bank. I mean, they can't get in a boat and do anything else. And even some people in a boat, they don't understand, you know, they don't have the knowledge to know what to do, you know. So they hire, a lot of them hire guides and, you know, stuff like that to go have a good day with their families. And I guided for quite a while.
Okay, witness, we don't need, you know, we understand that you're an expert. You don't have to go back on there. Your Honor, could you ask the witness to please refrain? You know,
will allow me to retort.
Tell you, man, this is feeling more and more like a dictatorship over here.
Well, I tell you what, you know what, our listeners, I don't know if they can get an elk this year, but we might have one or two people go out and catch a bass when we're done with this.
Exactly.
I mean, I can get way off in the weeds with it, get way scientific.
It's pretty cool, Beto. I've never heard you talk about fishing like that before, and it's enlightening, brother.
It's the same thing with elk hunting, though, fellas.
And we're going to get there.
Yeah.
No, if the witness would just please refrain. We'll get there. So, what would you say are a fish's have-tos, things that they need, that they want, that they rely on behaviorally that you can take advantage of?
They have to spawn. they have to reproduce, just like elk have to rut, right? They have to reproduce. So, when the water temperature reaches 58 degrees and you get a good full moon, and start looking for them to be on the bank. They're going to get in real shallow water, and you can see them, and you can sight fish for them. Super fun to do that. That's one of my favorite ways to catch them, especially big ones. Yeah, I mean, it's more like bass hunting than it is bass fishing.
Absolutely, man. I think you guys kind of seeing where I'm going with this, right? But and I really think the analogy I'm trying to put this for the people out there is we're going to take this a step further here in a minute. So if you just bear with me, and I want to ask you this because it's so much like it, man. And I think sometimes we overcomplicate it. I mean, we look at the woods like we look at a big old lake. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Out there. So what we're going to try to do is we're going to take this a little further. Like, for example, Gilbert, once you fished a lake and you do that, are the fish generally found in the same areas or the same type of areas that you found them in that lake before? Or is that dependent on time of year, or on each time of year, are they kind of in those same areas?
It depends on a couple things, Joe, just like for the elk, okay? It depends on if there's food in the area and if there's shelter in the area, right? Meaning grass, meaning those lily pad stems, and it means food, shad, brim, those kinds of things, right? So if you have all of those things, yes, they will be in those. And, R.C. Knox and yourself have hunted many years in a lot of those places. So, y'all can hunt some history, when you have the right things, when you have the oak brush that's got the acorns on it, or when you got dry years and no water and stuff like that. It's the same thing.
And,
so, yes.
And there are things that can change that, man. So.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. High water conditions, hard, cold temperatures rolling in will back them off. There's lots of variables. It's so much like elk hunting. When I read this, when I read this driving home today, I was like, man, this is right in my wheelhouse, so yeah. And if I don't get too deep off in it, I'm trying not to, but yeah, I mean, and you know what, Joe, it has made me go ting, even elk hunting, right? Because when I relate this to elk hunting, man, this has gotten a whole lot simpler,
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that hopefully is the goal here. In fact, I think there's some things, even turkey hunters, there's a lot of things things people can put this type, type together. So let me ask you this. When is a big bass the easiest to catch, and why?
This time of year during the spawn, because they're up shallow and they're with a female. The females are the big ones, okay? So unlike, the elk we hunt, males are bigger, but the female bass are the bigger ones.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Males are generally half the size of the female. At Lake Fork, you can get some 5-6 pound females, but generally a 10-pound largemouth will be with a 5-pound male.
I'll be darned. Okay. All right. So the best lure that you use works every time, right? I mean, there's a silver bullet that, Gilbert has that in his tackle box, and he goes out and it's going to catch a big bass every daggone time.
Well, yes, but each fish has its own tendencies, just like a bull does, right? Each fish has its own tendencies, and when we cast that lure in there in its nest and we hop it up in its face and it doesn't react, right? It's just like when we're calling. If it doesn't react, well, then we got to change something, right? So it may be the lure type, it could be the rate of fall, it could be
would the time of the year influence the type of lure you would use?
Not during the spawn. I mean, we're talking about the spawn, because that's
but what if you're not during the spawn?
Yeah.
Well, then it's a lot harder to catch a big bass, because they're not going to be as easy to access.
Would you use the same lure even though?
No, sir, because they won't be up on the bank.
And see, that's the question.
They'll be deeper.
That's the question I'm asking. If you had one lure that was your hot lure for catching bass, is that going to work year round?
No.
No, it's not.
No.
Right?
No.
you know, I want to thank the witness for for answering these questions. We will not put you in contempt. All right, and that's a lot of fun, but there's a whole lot of reason to that.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, how does this convert to finding elk? And that's what I wanted to do. Is I just wanted people out there that I think a lot of people have a lot more answers than they know on stuff like this. So, so how do you do that? Where do you start is the question. So I think you have to ask yourself these questions. Look, it doesn't matter if you look at mountains, if it's mesas, rolling hills, choke forests, West Coast, I don't care where. There are focus areas that elk go to, and there's reasons why. And there's areas that are features or that attract elk or certain things that we look for, right? Because, I mean, well, if you're a hunter out there, y'all, that are listening, and you go to a high point and you take out your binos and you're looking down at some open meadows, why are you looking down in those open meadows? Is it because it's the easiest thing to do? Is it because it's open and you're not sure where you should be looking and all the other thick trees are there and you're hoping an elk comes out? Or are there reasons that you're looking at those? What are focuses in the area that might be bringing elk into that? So when we were talking about focus areas with Gilbert on fish, and he talked about those things, well, there's absolute focus areas.
Big time. Huge.
Think about some of the places that we go to look for elk.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, we're gonna start off in the high traffic areas that we know that they go to, from bedding area to feeding area to watering, stuff like that. I mean, we're gonna start out in those areas because that's where they gotta be. You know, that's where they're gonna be. They're gonna.
Are there visual signs of fish being in certain areas?
Absolutely. They will come up and blow up on bait, or they'll make the water boil when they run off a perch that's around their bed. I mean, absolute visual signs, you know, just like there's visual signs in the elk woods.
If I'm going into the mountains, then what kind of things, what kind of features, like you talked about grasses there, you talked about points, you talked about where creeks come in. Actually, dude, I mean, a lot of those sames.
Yes, sir.
A lot of those sames. I mean, that creek that you're talking about. Well, number one, you know, where that flow is, right?
Right, yeah. When you look down in that valley that you're talking about, you're looking to see if there's any water down there.
Yes.
Right.
I mean, not necessarily looking for elk, and if there is one, that's awesome. He's down there either drinking or eating.
Right.
Yeah.
If you're there at the right time of day,
at the right time of day, exactly.
Yeah.
But it gives you an idea that, hey, there's water down there.
So
they gotta eat and they gotta drink.
So the open area is going to show that there's grass because it's open, right?
Right.
It's got to have sun, right? In fact, I think Keith Despacito, shout out to Keith out there. He sent me a thing today, and he was talking about is it good to go into downfall areas? Like, I guess in Colorado they got a lot of this downfall that's going down. I don't know if it's beetle kill or what. And he's like, you know, is that an area where you can find elk in there? And one of the responses I had to him is, I know beetle kill areas can be good if it's open enough that they're getting a lot of grass in there. Right. If there's no grass, then
especially if they burn it.
Yeah, there's not going to be elk. But when I look down into that valley, there's a couple other things I want to look for. Right. So I want to see, is there any dark timber around the area?
Or aspens.
I want to look and see, is there a saddle coming off that ridge that leads down into that valley? Or is there some kind of travel corridor or a natural funnel that comes from, and you can see, I can even imagine it in my head when I look in and I see two sides or two ridges coming together, and there's a bowl back there with dark timber, and it funnels down with an open park down at the bottom of it with some kind of creek coming through.
Bedding area.
Yeah.
You can see the pillows and the pink blankets.
Yeah, well, that is a straight travel corridor in Elk Highway.
Absolutely, man.
It's the same way when you're fishing. That creek channel runs those. They use it just like a highway, like a trail. The fish use it to move up and down in the water column around its natural habitat, and the elk do the same thing.
Oh, absolutely, man. You know, finger ridges. When you look how those finger ridges come down. Now, there's something that I always wanted to tell people, and I never thought about how doing it, but I call it ridge knuckles. In other words, if I had ridges coming down out of a mountain like this, and you've got the lower areas on the inside, I can tell you, man, the area that elk like to travel is when they get up on those finger ridges and they go up, they like to travel right here.
Yeah, across the tops.
On those top of those knuckles, right at the head of those ridges, because in those areas, number one, you have a lot of these bowl features that are in there that are really, really great for thermals inside.
Yeah.
Right?
And also there is less change in elevation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's easier. It's more effective to travel up there than it is down at the bottom of the drainage.
Bingo, man, because it's so much closer. Everything's so much closer. If there's other elk, think about this. If there's other elk moving up other finger ridges, where are you going to find them, and where are you going to hear them, and where are you going to smell? Is up in those knuckle areas right there, man. It's those areas before they top out, and they will actually. And look, if you're trying to find elk, you get up on that finger ridge and you hit those knuckles where it's just right at the top. It's not where you have to drop down and come back up. It's up at the top of those, inside that knuckle right there, where you can kind of stay in that same elevation and go at the top of all those ridges. I guarantee you will start hitting elk trails.
Oh, yeah.
Bunches of them.
And you get on those, and if you want to find elk, look, how do you know where to find people in their home? You know, well, people use a hallway. They're going to go from the kitchen to the bedroom in a hallway, right? Well, it's just the same thing with an elk trail, man. If you locate elk trails, get on it, travel on it. You can tell the ones that are being used, whether it's been used right now or been used throughout a lot. They'll take you to bedding areas. They'll take you from bedding areas to feed areas. They'll take you
do
from
the exact same thing when spotting stalking hogs.
Yeah.
The exact same thing.
Yeah, exactly, man.
Yeah, you find sign, and you can find older trails, newer trails, active trails, inactive trails, and sign, and it will just tell you, and it will guide you to them. As a matter of fact, I've been with Rafa a couple of times out on the public land, and I stopped and I said, Rafa, get in front, because we're gonna jump into hogs here shortly. And it wasn't 10 minutes and he shot a hog and killed it. I mean, the sign will tell you, the woods will tell you, just like you're saying.
And if I'm in a feed area, whether it's a park, whether it's a little clearing at the bottom that's coming out of some of these other areas that they're going into, I guarantee you'll find a solid trail going into that. And if you follow that trail out of there and start working that trail, you will, and look, don't worry about, I don't know how to tell you this. It's not like, okay, am I trying to bugle up a bull? You're trying to figure out how the animals are moving. You're trying to figure out where they're going from feed to bed. You know, once you start discovering that, now you found their corridor, you found their transition area. And let me tell you about transition areas. All right, so if we have a moonlit night, and you've guided for a number of years, RC, if we have a moonlit night and most guys are waiting in a park at the end of the day, it's probably, you're not going to see an elk till when?
Oh, you're not.
Yeah.
They done left.
You're going to fall asleep before the elk come in.
Yeah, because I mean, because they have the moon, so they're going to, they're either going to be in that last 10 minutes, last 5 minutes, right? Okay. Yeah. So I tell people, why are you waiting at their destination when you can get in the areas and those corridors, those transitions where they travel from one to the other? That's where you want to be. And let me give you a hint here. The transition is best time to hunt is not necessarily in the morning, because in the morning when they come out of feed and they're going to bed,
they're headed to a destination.
They're going.
Yeah.
They're going. Right. But it's different in the afternoon, because in the afternoon they do a lazy feed staying in the trees until they get down to it.
Yep.
So that's your best time to catch them in those corridors and transition areas. Now, what's great about the speed in the morning is that if you're able to parallel them puppies, and listen to what I'm saying here, is you don't want to follow behind elk. You want to get on their downwind, you know, right. You want to get on that same level as much as possible, and follow them up so that you can put them to bed. Now you have them there for 6 to 8 hours, right? Now you can make a move on them. But in the afternoon, you're going to be able to catch them in that transition.
And when it's the right hour, if you don't have a moon, it's going to happen quick. I mean, it's just like all of a sudden they just throw their heads up and here they come. You know, so it's like you have to be in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So,
and it's all about, like RC said, being in the right place at the right time is about doing your homework early, you know, and understanding why they're going to be there and where they're going to be there.
Where you're going,
and going to those places where you find the sign, man.
Exactly.
So if, you know, RC used to tell me all the time. Now this is the difference between a guy that got a chance to be raised on private property and a guy that hunts state property. Is RC would, if a group of elk went up inside the trees and they went up to go to bed,
leave them alone.
Leave them alone. He'd tell them, leave them alone.
They're coming right back to the same place they went in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If they're not
don't
moving,
blow them out of there.
They're going to come right back out, maybe 100 yards, 200 yards, one way or the other. I got news for you. They'll do that even on public, because that's how we got Steve Samuels to get his elk last year. We knew where they were going in, going out, and we just waited till they came out. And it was about 100, 200 yards further, but came out in the same area. You know, a lesson I learned from RC. But if they are being boogered, that's why usually with the bow hunt, we're a little bit more aggressive going into those areas and going up to where they're bedding them and calling them out of their bed, because a lot of times that public land, you know, it's a little bit different because we're hunting them in the trees. We're not rifle hunting them when they're coming out.
Right.
Okay. Now, if you're rifle hunting, there's a lesson for you right there.
You bet.
But that's the thing that I'm trying to get people to understand is when you go and you look at an area, when you start going into an area, there are features just like there are on a lake, man. I went to Washington State, and my wife and I were driving to Mount St. Helens up there on this windy old road. We got about halfway up there, and we stopped, and she's looking at the volcano and everything. And I'm going, oh, there it is. And she's like, what? And it's like, there's a group of elk right down there by the river, you know. She's looking at the volcano, and I'm looking for elk, right?
Yeah.
And I found those boogers exactly because of the features that were down there. I knew where to look, you know, in the afternoon. So that's something. So, all right. So here's the next thing. Does the time of year, a type of elk matter, or the size of elk? So does the time of year matter as to where you're going to find, let's say, and now we said type of elk, right? So this is a big question you got to ask yourself too, guys, is, all right, what are you hunting? Are you hunting a cow elk? Are you hunting a spike elk? Because we got a lot of our listeners out here, they're going to be hunting with a cow tag, right? We got a lot of our listeners that in Utah, they can only hunt spike in some places over there, right? Are you hunting any elk, or are you hunting a mature bull? So does time of year or type of elk matter as to how you're finding elk, or the size of an elk? Does it matter?
Sure.
Right?
Yes.
How does the time of year?
Well, I mean, in the early season, right? When you really looking for cows if you want to find bulls, right? So in the early part of the year, that's what we're looking for. You know, we're looking to find the cows, because when those cows come in estrus, guess who's going to be with them? And the bigger bulls are going to be there as well. So, I mean, it just depends, Joe, if you're hunting cows or you're hunting bulls, but both the same. If you're hunting cows, you got to find them, right?
Right.
And And during the rut, that's where the bulls are going to start showing up.
Hey, now you said early season. So, I always say that we have early season, right? Then we have rut staging. Then we have rut.
Yeah.
Okay. So an early season is actually even before that rut staging.
Yeah, the bulls are kind of bachelor up still in the pre-rut. But they're still responding to cows. So, kind of hanging around the same general area.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it does make a difference, And then, of course, the rut, just pretty much listen.
Yeah, because when you're talking pre-rut, those guys that are bachelored up, now you're thinking early season, they're still separated from the cows, other than the spikes. And see, so this is where the story comes in right here, because those spikes are still with Aunt, Grandma, and Ma, right?
They're dumb as a bag of hammers.
And they're still with the herd. but those bulls, they don't want nothing to do. You got RC going, because people don't understand. We've all been into elk camp together, and a lot of these expressions are expressions used at elk camp.
Yeah, buddy. That's a gamagism.
Yeah. And but when we're talking that pre-rut, those bulls that bachelored up, they don't care about them cows at that point. They ain't got nothing.
No, you're right.
Right? So.
But let one of them come in heat.
Oh, yeah.
Early. And the whole daggum mountain will light up.
Yeah. Yeah, we've seen that.
Yeah.
So that's the thing, though, that I want people to understand is when you're trying to find out, the groups that you're looking for, the time of year, the type of elk that you're trying to get for matters. Now, once you get into that rut staging period right in there, absolutely, right? Yeah. Cows are the key.
For sure.
You start finding that because, you've got elk that are starting to move in. Now it's going to be those younger bulls, those bigger ones are hanging off. But again, like you said, at that time, they're still susceptible. So it's the same thing with your bass, man. The best time, you said the best time to catch a bass, but the best time to kill a bull elk is when?
During the rut.
During the rut, right? Best time to kill a bull elk. And I'll give you one other time. What other time if we're not talking bow, what do you think would be the other best time of the year to kill a big bull elk?
Oh, in December.
Absolutely. Why is that?
Because they've already split off from the herd and they're find a track and track him down.
Yeah. And man, they're in recovery mode big time. Eat. Yeah, that's why in New Mexico you don't find any hunts now in December, man. In that hunt on private places. Yeah. That's your best time to get a big bull.
Hard to find any hunt in New Mexico right now, Joe. By God.
Yeah. And by then they've lost a lot of weight, right?
Oh yeah.
They're starting to put it back on, but yeah, for sure.
Because they're trying
to survive the winter.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I guess then in December you could have some pretty good snowfall too to drive them down. So that'll give you a little bit of help too, huh, RC?
Yeah, I was going to say on your pre-rut that I had the opportunity to go on a pre-rut hunt in the Bivy, and it was amazing to me that we found lots of big bulls. I mean, we're talking big bulls.
Yes, sir.
And they would not answer the bugle. They would take and we would cow call, and they'd answer the cow call, and you would go, was that a bugle or was that? And all they were was kind of just grunting. Mm-hmm. And they just grunt. And we've probably found 5 different big bulls that we had to stock on that were laying down.
Wow.
Laying down. Never got up.
Wow.
So
crazy, man.
Yeah.
Didn't have to, did they?
Yeah. What do y'all think that was? Just
well, the testosterone level's so
tired.
They're
no, they're not tired yet.
No,
they're waiting.
Actually,
they're waiting.
Man. They're waiting.
Not saving energy.
Absolutely, man. Those big bulls, it ain't their first rodeo. And they know that, you know, there's nothing else even close to signifying when you hear a cow call that there's a hot cow. It's just, I mean, they're herd animals and they don't want to be with the herd right now. They want to be with the boys, and they don't care if there's any cows in the area. That's natural for there to be cows. Well, y'all have a good time. Go to Walmart. We'll sit here and we'll watch the football game. All right. So it's really,
as soon as them pretty gals start smelling right, it's on then like a pot of neck bones.
Yeah. But there's got to be something that signifies that happened. Now, had they started hearing multiple bulls screaming and some different things happening in a scenario, you might have got one bull to come over there. It might have been a different story. But and they are doing some pecking order stuff between each other at that time. Some raking might even work at that time. But they are saving that energy. It really is. Really is. I mean, really, spot and stock is your best bet.
Oh yeah.
On those boogers at that time. Yep. So just like I said with talking about the bass before, what are the elk's have-tos, things they need, that they want, that they rely on behaviorally, that you and we as hunters can take advantage of?
Yeah, I mean, they got to eat. They got to drink, and they got to breed. You know, I mean, those are the three basic things, and you know that they're herd animals, you know, and then they communicate verbally, you know, with that, you know, with action, and they recognize other elk, you know, that's what they're looking for. They're looking for other elk. Bulls are looking for other bulls, and then they listening for them cows to come in to eat. You know, harking back several times, Joe, you and I have hunted, and we've got a bull coming on a string, and he hears another bugle, and he just turns and leaves, and we're like, man, dude, we had him. You know, what is going on here? But he hears a bunch of other bulls up above us, and he just turns and goes towards them. It's like them dadgum bulls, you know.
You have a nickname for them bulls.
Yeah, we do, but I
can't say it because it's language.
That's straight off Unleashed. So I mean, I thought RC was fixing to bust a gut right there because he knew what I was fixing to say. So at the end of the day, Carl Gamage had a real good word for them bulls. But I mean, it just, you know, it throw you a curveball from time to time. I harken back to one time RC Knox and I were hunting together. It's a really cool story. And bless his heart, he took good care of me, because I'm telling you, as many bulls as he put in front of me and I passed on, I thought he was going to choke me out when we got back.
Look, I'm up. I got him right here. Yeah. And I'm really upset with you, man, for enabling that dude to do that whole time.
Dude, he wanted to beat me over the head, I promise you.
You let that young dude get away with that all that time, and then I had to deal with it. Thanks a lot, RC.
So, you know, we were up on one of those fingers, Joe, that kind of looks like this, and we're way up here in the top of it where we were just going to cut across, right? Well, we're sitting there, and we had not seen or heard a bull elk or cow elk in a long time. And he looked at me, and he's like, man, you know, there is nothing going on. And I mean, nothing. So he gets his bugle tube out, man. He just rips off this nasty bugle, man. It was awesome. And I mean, it ain't 5 seconds, and the woods just freaking erupts with elk above us, man. Here they come. It sounds like I heard a buffalo coming off the dadgum mountain. He looks at me and he goes, man, are you ready? I'm like, oh my God, I hope we don't get run over by all these dadgum elk, dude. And this huge bull, I'm talking a giant bull, walks out and just in... I didn't have the wherewithal to move my body at the time to move into a shot window. All I need to do is take 3 steps, you know, or a step and a half right, and I got a window to shoot. He's standing with a big bush that's in the kill, and I need him to take a foot and a half step out, and he's 44 yards. I'm going to smoke him, you know, and all I need to do is take 1 step when I'm drawn. But I was so young in the process, and this bull's staring at me and RC like a calf looking at a new gate. I mean, seriously, I mean a big giant bull, man. So RC's looking at me, he's like, man, any second this is fixing to go, right? Well, no, the gust from the gods on the thermals hit him, and they all shot back up the mountain. And this little raghorn bull comes rolling up on us, man. And I mean, he walks in there at 12 yards, and RC goes, like, man, what? You're gonna. So I drew, man, and RC's like, this is it. It's gonna happen right here. I just drew on him. I held that red pen on him like that, and I went, nah. I took it. I did like that, man. I thought the guy was gonna hyperventilate on me, man. He's like, oh, what is going on here? But just to tell you, there was absolutely nothing going on, and RC is. If you've hunted with him, you know he's passive aggressive, okay? And I mean that in the best sense of the word. I got so much knowledge from hunting with him and hunting with Joe and hunting with Carl and hunting with Chav. I mean, but RC just doesn't he doesn't bugle a whole lot, man. He's really good with cow calls and stuff like that. But
Grinders tuning in, thank you for listening to the Blue Collar Elk Hunting Podcast. Our goal is to share our knowledge and help you flatten that learning curve so that you too can have some of the very same incredible experiences that have given all of us here at ElkBros a lifetime of memories. If you like what you hear or see, you can get all of this information plus so much more from our Base Camp Elk Hunting Training Camp, the first in a series of online courses from our Blue Collar Elk Academy. Our Base Camp Training Camp allows me to use my coaching style and share almost 40 years of elk hunting experiences successfully hunting elk on public lands, as well as over 20 years guiding hunters of all ages and experience levels. This course will be like nothing you have ever experienced in concept and structure, using success-based coaching techniques that will elevate your confidence and skill sets. Our camp will prepare you specifically from that final moment most in your control, those final minutes or seconds the elk is in front of you, backwards through each step and level, allowing you to see, visualize, understand, and relate every coaching point to what lies ahead, the next step, the next thought process, the next success. Because y'all, you've already been there. You know what it looks like. By tapping my 30 years of teaching and coaching experience, our camps are developed considering multiple learning modes with text, visuals, audio, as well as video. And Base Camp will benefit those new to elk hunting all the way to the 10 to 15 year vet. So if you are looking for that one thing to help you fill that tag this year, invest in the most important piece of equipment there is, you and your elk hunting knowledge. You can find the Blue Collar Elk Hunting Academy and the Base Camp Training Camp at ElkBros.com. That's ElkBros.com. Keep dreaming of the screaming, believing in achieving, and most of all, keep grinding.
If RC sees an elk, that elk's in dire trouble. I can tell you that, because he's like, talk about an elk ninja. That's straight up RC Knox. He's going to get in there in her hip pocket.
Oh, now we got two ninjas in the woods.
Yeah, I mean, straight up. I mean, one's like...
All kinds of martial arts going on around here.
Yeah. I mean, he definitely is lethal if you get him in sight, right? So, he just didn't call a whole lot, and when he ripped that off, it was like Katie barred the door. But there was nothing going on, you know? So he just decided, well, I'm going to make my own fun here and sound like my own party. And I'm telling you, again, it was early season. Bulls weren't talking a whole lot. It was warm, and that happened, right? So it just goes to show you, when one thing ain't working, you just got to keep, it's like fishing. One bait ain't working, you got to keep trying different bait, you know. Even though it's that time of the year and it should be working, sometimes the elements are just not in your favor, and you got to make some subtle changes.
That's the exact point that I'm trying to make, man, is that you have to take advantage of the things that they rely on and their behavior. They have to. RC, yeah, I mean, managing all that time, what is it that you found that these critters really went to most to eat?
They love the acorns.
Mm-hmm. Was that their mainstay?
No, they were like cattle. They like to eat the grass, and they graze a lot. And if the grass is too, they like the tender stuff. I mean, if it's too coarse or too big or too tall, they don't like that.
Where would they find something that's a little more tender? I mean, what type of areas do you look for to be able to find more tender grass?
All in the boggy areas.
So yeah,
areas that have a little more water table to them.
Right.
And that flattens out and spreads out, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it gets
even a little bit of them aspen little forest areas.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Burn areas, maybe.
Yeah.
Where's that, chap?
Burn areas.
Oh yeah, they love that burn stuff because that's all brand new stuff, and they love that tender. Oh yeah.
And its nutrients on that.
Forbs
right?
and
Like
tender. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and there's a succession of plants that take place in a burn area, so they'll eat stuff that won't be there in a couple of years down the line. So
yeah, it's very nutritious too.
Yeah,
real rich in protein and phosphorus.
That's what I'm saying, man. If you take advantage of that, if you see patches of green grass, where there's moisture nearby, oh my God, that tells you something right there. Now, if it's a wet year and there's green, moist grass everywhere, well, now you gotta start dealing on a different type thing. Now you gotta start looking, okay, what's the next thing that I could take advantage of, because they got good grass. So there's got to be other things that they're looking for at that time of year. And now if it's the rut, if it's the cover, if it's their regular travel routes, if you just got to locate that next best thing that you can be able to do, because now they're going to be dispersed a little bit more. They're not going to be as concentrated, but that's something. And the fact that they're herd animals, man, that means that they want to talk, they want to communicate, they're going to be verbal, right? That's how they communicate. And after we get out of this and we start going into the next part of this series as we go, we're going to talk about how we take advantage of those. Again, we just want you to understand before we get there. And we've talked about some of this, but I'm really trying to be in depth with you guys on this, okay? And look, one thing is too, they have this is what I take advantage of all the time, especially with a nose like this. They have such a distinct smell.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I mean,
you smell them from a long way off.
Absolutely.
Especially if you side when, doing what you're supposed to do, using the wind right. When you get them, man, you can almost turn right into the wind and dog them from, depending on what your wind direction is. But yep. I'm telling you, when you smell them strong, and like we had this year, Joe, with our snow, right? We cut a track, and I mean, you could literally see the perfect cylinders where their droppings would burn a hole through the snow, and the yellow snow from where they'd urinate and everything. You'd know how close that you were on their track. It was so cool to do that this year.
You even saw a reddish, pinkish urine there.
That's right. Cow being in heat.
I mean, estrus, right? Yeah. And that's how we knew. And they were just blowing up at that. And yeah, it's funny. We would have never seen that if it wasn't for the snow. So,
yep. Well, I see craziest thing you ever seen in your life. I mean, 6 inches of snow, 4 to 6 inches of snow on September the 9th. I mean, unbelievable, brother.
Well, you've been in the country a lot longer than I have. I mean, especially up there in the high country up there. Have you guys ever, how many times has that ever happened?
Not necessarily the snow, but I mean, used to get lots of rain
and hailstorms,
and it just stay and stay and stay and stay,
But as far as snow goes, I mean, we had 3 days of 20 degrees, man. I mean, it turned winter real quick.
We Venezuelans, Mr. RC, are not genetically built for that kind of weather. So for us to have survived, it's quite the accomplishment.
They live close to the equator, man.
Yeah, 10 degrees above it.
All right.
Let me ask you, man, about when you would go out, it's tough. I know it's tough for you because a lot of times when you go places that you already know your favorite haunts. But if you think about that, RC, what were some of the favorite things that you looked for to go find those critters?
Well, it's like you say, doing your homework, knowing where the best feed is. Especially on a dry year, you got to be able to find, if you been there before and all of a sudden that creek's dry. Well, what's the next best thing?
Mm-hmm.
So you just gotta, what's the word? Think like an elk.
Yeah. Now, do you think they'll travel farther for water, or do they have to travel farther, or will they travel farther for water than they will for their grass and feed?
Yes, they will. They'll feed along the way and try to get as close to that water as they possibly can.
To the water?
But that tank or whatever has got the water, yeah.
Yeah. How far have you seen, or do you think elk will go just to get to water from their bedding area?
Oh, I've seen them go at least 7 to 8 miles.
Yeah. They do that over in that Cuesta area, don't they? Over there, coming off of that hill, going all the way down.
Oh,
to the
yeah,
river.
it's unbelievable how far they go for that, off of that Ute Mountain all the way down to the bottom down there to get water off of the Rio Grande.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Yeah, I mean, they'll travel and they'll feed along the way. So that's a good point to have there, to think about that. So, you know, and the reason I asked him that is because one of the questions I asked Gilbert was, once you've hunted an area, are the elk generally found in the same areas, type of areas, depending on time of year? Chav, what would you say? I mean, after all of our experience in some of the places that we hunt, are they in generally the same areas?
Yeah, it's like Gilbert mentioned it, you know, the way he phrased it was hunt history. Yeah. You know, everybody's got their favorite areas. You know, I'm sure, you know, when RC guided with Carl over in their area, you know, they pinpointed like 5 places, hot spots. So that's where they were sending their clients. And in our particular area that, you know, we know pretty well, we can set our plan of attack by going to a specific area, because we know from past history that we'll find the animals there. So yeah, history is real important. And then, like RC just mentioned, if something dries up, for example, then it's going to vary a little bit. So it can vary from year to year, but generally history will play a big part. But that comes with knowledge, which, you know, Gilbert and RC both mentioned. You know, you gotta have knowledge of your prey and you know, their habits and stuff. So
absolutely, man.
Yeah, so it makes a difference. Yeah.
And that, put your time in. You know, I had my son. We fished a brand new lake, never been to, and it had been 30 years since I've been to it, so it might as well be brand new. And I made Logan. I taught him how to e-scout, and I made Logan find 5 areas that he wanted to go and fish that we knew that were north-facing pockets that were different areas of the lake, and it was still a grind, man. It was still tough because we had real cold water conditions, horrible weather, wind blowing like crazy. And we ended up finding some fish because of the amount of area we covered. But it's no different than what you're doing in the Elkwoods. You know, that lake's 27,000 acres, and we ended up probably fishing 500 of it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, again, it's really about putting the boots on the ground or doing your e-scouting.
But putting the boots on the ground smart, like you said.
For sure.
Fish
I mean, that way you don't have to scout the entire lake. You concentrate just in the areas where you have more chances.
So let's take this the other way so people can understand this. Instead of saying, well, what are we looking for? Is there ways to eliminate area?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think you can look at country and you can look at it and you can go, man, I know this is not where they're at.
Yeah, well, that's the most important part, Joe. When I started fishing professionally, it wasn't about finding fish. It was about finding where they weren't, you know, because I didn't have to worry about that area anymore. You know, I would go, oh man. So in my practice, I knew where I could go catch fish from years and years of being there. Just like you guys know where y'all can go kill elk from years and years and years, right? So for me, it was about going and finding new stuff or marking stuff off that I never had to worry about again on the lake, right? Other than going and looking for grass, shad, different structures that are there. Same thing with elk hunting. Like you said, one area may not have good grass and everything one year, but the next year they had a burn go through there and poof, here you are. Now you got all this stuff. So you need to be cognizant of all of that, right? Understanding what went on in the area, man. Speak to some landowners. It's really important for you guys to do your homework before you ever get your boots on the ground.
Yeah, I would think, Beto, that like everything, right? I mean, there might be some areas when you're e-scouting that you think, well, there's no way you'll find animals there. But once you put boots on the ground, you might be like, oh, wait a minute. You know, we kind of put this area aside because we didn't think, but it turns out it's just kind of looking different once you're actually in it, right? So I'm sure that's the case too, for fishing and
yeah, no,
I know that's the case for hogs as well.
I've fished some banks that you wouldn't think had any fish on them at all, and all of a sudden, what you didn't know is under the water there was a big row of stumps, and those fish set up on those stumps to stage, right? So stuff you can't see, you know. Same thing with the e-scouting, you won't be able to see down in those canyons and understand that even though it's got a canopy, it's got tons of runoff water that's come from the snow melt, and it's deposited lots of great nutrients down there with lots of new growth grass and whatnot. And those elk are really going to focus on that, especially using those corridors, right? So yeah, man, I mean, there's nothing for me, there's nothing like having my boots on the ground and understanding it, and definitely identifying places before we get there. You know, I've been 100% spoiled because I've hunted with Joe and Chav and RC Knox and Carl Gamage for as long as I have, and they just have such a vast knowledge of that country around there. So it takes a lot of that out of that for us. But look, every year we got to make crucial decisions for our success, because it ain't a slam dunk, man. We're fighting Mother Nature and other people and everything else. So, and we have to make adjustments on the fly. I mean, just take a look at our last season, how many adjustments we made to get it done.
Joe, and I think it goes back to what, you know, we had a lot of episodes around the importance of knowledge. You know, you can have great archers, you can have great equipment, you know, you can have a solid tag and a solid area to hunt in, but, you know, going back to how the podcast started, where you need to have a plan. Well, you can also have a great plan, but if you don't have a knowledge, that plan ain't worth the crap, you know? And so the knowledge of the animal, the behavior, and the area as well, just it's to me, it's key for you to have that consistency that you're talking about.
Well, and I think that's the point that I'm trying to make too, is that, you know, if I'm a person up on a high ridge, I might be looking into a meadow because it's a meadow and I don't know anything else to do. I'm not looking at it with the knowledge of, okay, is there a saddle going into is there a funnel coming down? Do I see any moisture in the area? Am I seeing green grass in any place? Does it look like it's dried up? You know, and what is it that is attracting me to think that there could be the chance of an animal going down in there? What does the feed look like? Is there better feed over in the next ridge that's on the other side of the saddle? You know, I think that's what I'm trying to get here, is that once you have this knowledge factor, you can develop a plan. And when you get to camp, I don't care how big the country is. If you understand the animal, you understand the features of what attracts these animals, if you understand the focus areas of these animals, that you can go anywhere and get into them and then determine whether or not you have elk in your area. You know, just by hitting the correct places to be, the places that elk go. And I think that's the key, is understanding where elk go. And, you know, if you know that, then it doesn't take long to eliminate stuff.
Yeah, well, and my point being is, like, your plan is only as good as your knowledge level.
Absolutely. But it doesn't have to be complicated. It's not a complicated knowledge level. The fact that they're going to drink, they got to eat, they're going to bed, they're going to breed, they're going to travel, they're going to use trails, they're going to travel on the 2/3, they're going to travel up around the knuckles, you know, they're going to funnel down into feed, they're going to funnel down into water. right? They're going to walk ridges. They're going to go over saddles. These are things that if I see two hills coming together and I see a low spot inside there that's got an opening going through that, I'm looking at that puppy because that's where those critters are going to cross. Because I know this. So it's not that we have to know, okay, what is the degree of that hill on the side? Does it have food, and how much food does that have on that side versus it? No, they're going to use a saddle. They're going to do that because it's the easiest mode of travel from one place to the other. And remember that elk don't want to expend energy. They don't want to have to go straight up a hill if they can, and they will if they need to, right? But they're going to use specific trails that they use over and over again. We had this one area that we called a chute, remember? Because them critters went up and down that thing all the time. Because
my story was that's exactly where we were.
Oh, were you, huh?
Yeah, that's exactly where we were, in the chute.
And how many stories have been made about that area, because that is the greatest mode of travel. And aren't there other areas on the other side for them?
Absolutely, there are. Absolutely, there are. But when you commit to do that, brother, you fully vested in. I can tell you that straight up.
But for an elk, it's easy walking.
Oh yeah, but for a fat ass from Texas, it ain't. I promise you, because somebody done sucked all the daggum air from up here down there, buddy. Telling you.
So I think that's what I'm trying. I think Luis makes a great point that your plan is only as good as your knowledge, and that's the whole point of this. Is I don't want you to overcomplicate it. I want you to understand that there's behaviors that you can focus on. Just like, you know what? I bet I can go to a lake now, and I think I could go and find a place that I could go. I don't know what lure to use. I might go back to the worm, and you know what I mean? Because
never a bad idea, Joe.
Well, but that's the next phase of this is, okay, we've talked about where to find them, but we got to talk about how to create our opportunities, what bait to use, how we're going to go in and create those encounters. Because look, y'all.
I can make it happen if I only got an invite.
What?
He's dogging on me, Joe.
Oh, okay.
He's dogging on me.
He lost me for a second there.
No, I picked up on it real quick.
I hope I didn't lose my train of thought, man, because it was picking up there. Oh, but here's what I was going to say is that, look, there's a difference between locating and finding elk. When you're trying to locate, you can kind of locate an area where they're at, but then you got to actually find them. Well, you can find them by either you trying to go where they're at, or you can bring them to you. So there's things that we do to create encounters. There's things that we do to create opportunities. And we're going to talk more about that. And when we talk more about finding elk in the next part of this series. How's that for a segue, you guys?
Oh, dang, Joe. We could just keep right on rolling, man. I mean, look, that's my passion. I love this stuff, and I love fishing and I love hunting, but the chase is kind of where my deal is. I dig, and calling elk is just, it's so cool. Being able to hunt with guys like yourself and Chav and RC, helping me learn how to call and everything like that. It's changed the game for me as an elk hunter. I mean, absolutely 100% believe that every time I step in the woods, we can make it happen. Number one, we got some of the best elk hunting coaches in the country that are in camp with us. I hunt with some incredible assassins, man. These guys are incredible archers, and just like I said, this is what we live to do, is be able to call bulls in and get in amongst the herd and figure things out, because, even where we hunt, Joe, it's not
no, absolutely. It's public land, lots of people. Yeah, you got things to deal with, man. So,
I harken back, you and I, when we started out last year. The first morning we put boots on the ground, went on a little bitty hike and got up there, and it's still in the moonlight and everything, and Joe grabs his bugle tube, and it's going to be the first bugle of the season. And dude, it was like, it's like, oh my gosh, well, they're here. It's like, oh, wow. It was crazy for the first couple days. And then like a fart in the wind, they disappeared. I mean,
I don't
straight
know
up.
about farts in the wind disappearing. I can tell you, Joe's don't.
Oh no,
He's got a dude sitting right next to him. He's got a dude sitting right next to him that's infamous.
That's a bad example.
Infamous.
Let me tell you what, man. I hold no candle to this dude right here, man.
And you don't want to light a candle around that dude either.
RC, if you're worse than Joe, man, I don't know about ever wanting
Just
to.
don't give him no gravy.
Oh, imagine what he would do after Manano's paella, bro.
Oh, Lord, have mercy.
Oh, Lord.
Maybe we're going to get to find out. Maybe we'll get to find out.
I hope so. Man, it would do my heart good to have Mr. Knox in camp with us this year. That's for sure, brother.
And we'll see what we can make happen. I'll keep
Would
working.
love to meet you in person, sir.
Oh, yeah, I can't wait. Can't wait.
Sir.
And there's something, Gilbert, that, this is kind of cool for me, is that, I'm talking to RC the other day, and RC started listening to our podcast. And
that's cool.
And now you take this. This is Gilbert. He knows Gilbert 12 years ago.
Yeah.
Gilbert that he's hearing right now.
Yeah.
On that. And, you had a message for.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was just telling Joe, I said, man, Gilbert has come so far. It's unbelievable. I was like, man, you did a good job coaching this guy.
Yeah,
I mean, I was
appreciate
like,
that, RC.
just listening to you and knowing what you do know, it's like, wow, that's great, And so that's off to you. You did a good job.
And I
thank you so much, RC. That means a ton to me, because I know, this guy, like I've said this time and time again, this guy's like, elk hunting royalty to me, and just to have any kind of compliment from him is amazing. What he doesn't understand is the kind of help he gave me, 6-7 years ago, to get my life in the right frame of mind and help me so much as even like a father figure. It's been a true blessing to have RC Knox in my life, and I can't wait to keep going down that path. It's so cool to see him sitting there in Cimarron, New Mexico, next to my brother Joe Gilia. So it is so cool, man. RC, welcome back to Elk Bros, brother. I love you, brother.
Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you for the compliments.
Yeah, you've been one of the flowing founders of the blood that flows through us all this time.
No doubt.
So, and
100%.
Like I said, man, I don't know if you, the way that dude, man, talks people up, man, he's a tough one to live up to.
Yeah, well, it's WWJGD.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
all right, let's close this thing out.
Fellas, if you like what we're doing, please subscribe, rate, and review us. You got to go to Apple Podcast or iTunes to review us, and you can check out more elk hunting content at ElkBros.com. And just a reminder, if you like what we're doing here and our listeners would like their questions answered on our show, just send your questions to info@ElkBros.com. That is info@ElkBros.com. And like we say down here in the Lone Star State, husbands, hug your wives. Wives, hug and kiss your husbands. Kiss your babies. Keep your broadheads sharp and your powder dry. And we'll see you next week right here on Blue Collar Elk Hunting.
Absolutely.
And leading us out, our brother, Tony Wintrip, to close us out in the show. Laters, everybody.
Peace. Peace.
Deep draw surrounded by some brush, and every time I'd see the white tips get the Rocky Mountain rush, a constant swing of thermals had him sniffing up the wind as the blood and sweat and tears of mine came rolling down my chin. I saw a monster with no shots to take, points on top like a garden rake, tracks as big as a Clydesdale on the run. And he talked trash to me while he ran away, and I'll be back to ruin his day when the elk gods come to call on Bullicious. I saw the blue skies open up and the temperatures start to drop. So I packed up ready to make my way up on the mountaintop. With a quiver full of 6 and 3 blades sharp and ready. My heart was maxed out and all I had to do was hold her steady. Bullicious was a man above a man. When he let the thunder roll, you could hear him all across the land. He was painted with a splash of mud, and he weighed more than $1,000. Now it's him and I at Timberline, and he's down to his last stand. Bullicious was a man above a man. When he let the thunder roll, you could hear him all across the land. He was painted with a splash of mud, and he weighed more than $1,000. Now it's him and I at Timberline, and he's down to his last stand. Slipped out on me one time and he left a few behind. So I followed up the trail where his eyes soon met mine. And I greeted him with a Maxima red and a Muzzy 125. Yeah! Bullicious was a man above a man. When he let the thunder roll, you could hear him all across the land. He was painted with a splash of mud, and he weighed more than $1,000. Now it's him and I on the mountaintop, and Bullicious is in my hand.